One shot, one game, one skill, or just one goal is enough for fans to put certain players on a pedestal and tag the next best thing after the Messis and Ronaldos of this world. Sometimes these players do live up to the hype, but more often than not, they don't. They get to ride their reputation all through their careers with very rare glimpses of what made everyone so excited about them. Today on GoalLine FC, we've taken the liberty to clear out the facade of players living under reputation alone as we take a look at the most overrated players in each position. Ready? Let's go. Ederson is the first player on our list, and for not so obvious reasons actually. The 30-year-old is in his 7th season at the Etihad, and over the past 2 years, there's been a glaring dip in his performances. If you watch most of Manchester City's games, you probably not see his deficiencies at first glance, but steer a little closer and the frailties start to appear. While there's no doubt that he's the very best in the world with the ball at his feet, and is a major component of Pep's style of play, he makes the odd mistakes ever so often that will make players question his shot-stopping abilities. Last year, his save percentage in the league was 23rd out of all goalkeepers to play. While we can't conclusively say Ederson is severely overrated, because the guy is first choice in a treble-winning side, and making 1 or 2 errors is completely fine, but 3 to 6 in high-pressure situations is a bad look for a world-class shot-stopper. So maybe Ederson is not overrated, but certainly overappreciated as Manchester City's style of play covers his deficiencies most times. Like Ederson, Achraf Hakimi is another player who benefits from playing for a best-of-the-best club. Hakimi was absolutely phenomenal in Dortmund and Inter Milan, but since getting to PSG, he's not really hit the levels that gave him worthy shouts for being the best right-back in the world. His reputation suggests that he should be a fast, creative outlet down the right, but 9 goal contributions in 2 seasons means his reputation should have taken quite a hit. He created 42 chances in the 2022-2023 season, putting him at 42nd in France and 5th among League One defenders. He was very good at the World Cup, but again, playing in a PSG side that has had the ball 70% of the time, you just really expect more, especially considering what his reputation commands. For our centre-back pairing, we have Presnel Kimpembe and Antonio Rudiger. We've seen time and time again that Antonio Rudiger's strength is playing with a 3 at the back, but Real Madrid very rarely play in a back 3. They play a back 2, and when they do, Rudiger is absolutely nowhere near the starting 11 because he gives away that sense of insecurity. And for somebody who was called the best in the world after his final season at Chelsea, to not be able to get games in Real Madrid, except for when there's an injury, you'll begin to think maybe he's just not as good as everyone thought. Kimpembe, on the other hand, has had massive issues with injuries, but even when he isn't injured, he's always a tackle away from a yellow card. He has 53 yellow cards and 5 red cards in 236 games for PSG. Considering his injury track record, you'll quickly come to the conclusion that the best centre-backs must always be available. It's okay to be injured once in a while, but accruing such massive amounts of yellow cards is simply bad for a defender. He's also in the bottom 42% for centre-backs with progressive passes and progressive carries. And considering that he's not really ever had any transfer offer at all, we can all agree he's not quite at the pedestal of being one of the best defenders in the world, as many place him. Andre Robertson takes about the left back for us as a player who is really good, but just not at the level he was a few years back. Prior to last year, Robbo was considered one of the best left backs in the world. One of the reasons for Robertson's drop in form has been a change in formation that's pushed him to do a little more defending than normal to accommodate Trent's foray into the midfield. No doubt about it, Robertson's been immense over the last 6 years for Liverpool, but he's getting quite leggy and all the running from past years is kind of catching up with him. It will be interesting to see how he'll get on this year, but we really do hope Robbo will bounce back from one of his first down years since joining Liverpool and adapt to the demands of the game. For our midfield trip, we'll go with Casemiro, Caicedo and Kai Havertz. From 2014 to 2021, Casemiro formed a formidable midfield trio with Kroos and Modric. His combative approach was the perfect complement for Kroos' finesse and Modric's intelligence. For a good 7 years, he was rated as one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, helping Madrid to three-peat in the Champions League as the spine of the team. Fast forward to 2022, after a successful transfer to Manchester United, Casemiro still exudes that world-class flair, but entering 2023, it's pretty obvious that Casemiro just isn't as agile as he used to be. So while Casemiro is actually still very good, he really isn't the best defensive midfielder in the world anymore, like lots of fans still assume. Caicedo is unlike the early stages of his career and has a lot of proving to justify his mind-boggling £115 million transfer fee after less than 50 Premier League appearances. We get it. Caicedo did not dictate his transfer fee, but in the end, he still has to justify his hefty price tag, which he isn't doing just yet. He is clearly a very talented midfielder, but he is nowhere near the best in the world in his position. He'll need loads of time and patience to become the sort of world-class player his transfer fee demands. The cherry on top our midfield is Kai Havertz, Arteta's new experiment. Kai Havertz is often praised as a versatile player who can play anywhere along the front line and even in midfield. A Raumdeuter of some sort. Well, at least that's what Arteta thought. But even in Chelsea, the guy could not nail down any position after being praised as a generational talent in Germany. Kai Havertz's horrendous lackluster attitude has also riled up the Arsenal fans, who keep asking what the plan is with this guy. He is basically the poor man's Thomas Müller without the intelligence or will. Of course, it's still early days for Kai, but oh boy, the signs are not looking great at all. For our right wing, we'll go with Antony, who is probably more overrated by Ten Hag than Manchester United fans. Yes, he is a Brazilian and played wonderfully in his final season at Ajax, but that's just about everything the winger has going for him. Oh, let's add his fidget spinning skill, his cutting in and shooting with his left foot, and you've got the ingredients for a one-trick pony. The thing is, Antony is a pretty decent player, but he's certainly not worth over £80 million, which Manchester United paid for him. For north of 80 million quid, you certainly need someone who can cross with both feet and at least take on players, and Antony can't do either. What's more worrying is that Antony seems to have reached his ceiling, scoring less than 10 goals in his first full season at Manchester United. There are only so many tools he could add to his game, but then we don't think he'll ever beat the overrated tag. And for all the Neymar region shouts, we don't think he'll get anywhere close to being what Neymar has achieved. Our left winger is probably a head-turner, but Leroy Sané is another player who's still being placed on a pedestal based on his time at Manchester City. During his time playing at Manchester City, he was arguably the top 5 wingers in the world, but now 27 and entering into his prime, there are so many players ahead of him in the pecking order. Phil Foden, Martinelli, Marcus Rashford, Kvaratskhelia, and even Jack Grealish are much better than Sané currently is. And it shouldn't be like this, because in his last 2 years at Man City, he bagged 10 plus goals in the league alone. But in Bayern, he's never scored more than 8 league goals and hasn't started more than 22 games a season in a league which, with all due respect, is much easier than the Premier League. He is currently being outperformed by Kingsley Coman and maybe Serge Gnabry at Bayern too. We aren't saying Sané is a bad player by any means, just that he hasn't quite lived up to his potential and hype from his time in the Premier League, which some fans still judge him by. Up top, we have the most expensive player in football history in terms of combined transfer fees, Romelu Lukaku. At one point, especially during his time at Everton, Lukaku really looked like he could crack into conversations as one of the best strikers in the Premier League. But after his move to Manchester United in 2016, his form has been pretty lopsided. His first season at United was pretty good. Second season was bad. His first season at Inter was good. The second season was pretty injury-laden. And then his time at Chelsea has been an absolute nightmare. And there's no way he'll be called an elite striker if he turns his form on and off like a switch for a player that has cost €330 million in terms of combined transfer fees. We think he betrayed Inter Milan on the long run. He is definitely not a Chelsea legend, and his time at Manchester United would be looked at with probably mixed feelings too. He's made a lot of questionable decisions in the last few years, but we do think his next move has to be absolutely spot on. So, what do you think of our list? Let us know in the comments section below. While you do that, check out 10 teams to watch out for this season. If you enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up and slap the subscribe button so you never miss out on any content. Also, turn on the notification bell icon so you never miss out on new content. We'll catch you next time. Bye!